Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. What a great way to end the month of March, which happens to be National Nutrition Month. Now, in the US, it is a nutrition education and information campaign created annually during this month by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And here at FAFS, we also get to celebrate it, especially that our Nutrition and Dietetics coordinated program been accredited by the SM since 2013. So this year, and as part of the FAFS Lecture Series, we are very glad to celebrate this month with one of our prominent faculty members who has made great strides in nutritional epidemiology. Of course, I'm talking about Dr. Farah Naja. You all know her, Dr. Farah is, of course, an associate professor here at FAFS in nutritional epidemiology. She obtained her doctoral degree from University of Toronto in Canada, and she joined AUB in 2008. Ever since, she has been leading an active research portfolio with over 60 publications. And her research revolves around exploring innovative approaches to study dietary intake with a focus on health and environmental impacts of food consumption. Dr. Farah has also launched the first mother and child cohorts in 3 countries in the region, here in Lebanon, in Qatar, and in the UAE. Today she will tell you how following a healthy dietary pattern is not only good for your health, but also environmentally sustainable. So join me in welcoming her, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Sibel. Thank you very much, Sibel, and I'm happy to be part of this lecture series. Again, happy month, happy nutrition month to all the dietitians around. And I'm gonna start directly so we can finish on time. I know you wanna go home fast, so I'm gonna be quick. The first slide, and I think this slide you have seen over and over, but we have to start with it, is what are the main causes of mortality, of burden of disease in low-income, middle-income, and high-income countries. And the highlighted in green are those that are related to nutrition. So I'm gonna stand here, make the point for you that nutrition is important. I'm gonna start there. What is killing us, and how can nutrition help us? So if you look in low-income countries, you have diarrhea, which is linked to nutrition, preterm birth complications, maternal nutrition, ischemic heart disease, stroke, depression, preterm birth complications, diabetes, and heart diseases. All of these are linked to diet. This is a seminal paper in the Lancet, and it tells you what are the major risk factors. If you look at the top one, we see dietary risk factors. And these are the risk factors responsible for the burden of disease. Dietary risk factors are responsible for 18.3 million deaths. So we cannot keep blind to nutrition anymore and its importance in health and disease. If we take child and maternal malnutrition, they are responsible for 1.7 million deaths. I'm not talking about DALYs. I'm just going to talk about death. If we take high body mass index, which is our backyard, it's 4.4 million deaths. And here I'm only talking about the very related nutrition factors. I'm not going to talk about high blood glucose, which is also related to nutrition. I'm not going to talk about hypertension. Come in, this is our cup of tea. But I'm just going to talk about those diseases that are strictly related to nutrition. And you can see how many deaths nutrition and malnutrition are responsible for. طيب? Probably those of you who have seen previous lectures for me know these slides. What to do? Nutrition is killing, bad nutrition, malnutrition is killing us. How to go forward? So the traditional approach is we examine association of diseases with disease risk with individual nutrients, individual food, and individual food group. يعني, is it fruits and vegetables that are good? Is it red meat that is bad? Lab saturated fatty acids? Is it trans fatty acids? So people or researchers in nutrition will focus on these individual nutrients, foods, or food groups. And they will carry on careers in research, betting on a food group, betting on a nutrient, and betting on a food. This is the traditional way of looking at diet and disease associations. Where did it take us? It's been 20 years in nutritional sciences. Did the world get healthier? Did we get a better nutrition since nutritional sciences emerged? So maybe we should see what did this approach lead us to. First, let me talk about the challenges of this approach. Do you eat nutrients or you eat meals? We eat meals. We don't eat nutrients. I don't go to the coffee shop and ask them, well, I'd like some vitamin E, vitamin C, short trans fatty acids, and so on. This is not how I eat. I eat a meal. These nutrients do interact. We like it or we don't like it. These nutrients interact with each other. And this is more like philosophical. Is it the food that we eat or the food that we don't eat? If you eat lots of fruits and vegetables, de facto, you are not eating meat. So is it because of the fruits and vegetables that you are eating or the lack of meat? So conceptually, this ideology of looking at diet and disease is faultful. And methodologically, those of you who are involved in statistics, there is a problem of collinearity. Can you get me a food high in vitamin C, not high in fiber? Very tough. These nutrients exist with each other. In a statistical model, I have always problems of collinearity. How many nutrients do I have? I know more than 1,200. By chance, I will have 100 significant. By chance, mere chance. So when I analyze large number of variables, it's by chance that I'm going to have significance. Where did it take us? Supplement trial failed. Again, we like it or we don't like it. The ATBC trial, beta-carotene killed. مع أنه beta-carotene, if you look at it, it's an antioxidant, beautiful antioxidant. The mechanisms are amazing for those of you who are biochemistry savvy. Beta-carotene, beautiful antioxidants, it killed. Fat and breast cancer. Come in. Fat should be a risk factor. It is not. Calcium and vitamin D with fracture risk. Who of us doesn't believe that calcium is associated with bone health? أعطينا calcium, bone health did not change. So, Heidi, this is a very recent Lancet paper. For those of you dietitians, this is blasphemous. Total fat and individual types of fat were related to lower mortality. شو بنعمل؟ We've spent careers telling people إنه fat increases mortality. Wait, if you think this is shocking, read this one. Saturated fat had an inverse association with stroke. عم تحكي Lancet. And we're talking cohort studies. And we're talking multi-country. What do we tell people? So if we are, I'm confused. You are confused. Dietitians are confused. In 1984, the Time magazine, cholesterol is bad. Oh, do not eat cholesterol. 1999, low-carb diet, meat-loving, go ahead, eat cholesterol. July 2004, butter is good, eat butter. Where do we go next? So next, it's either I plan a very good study in my office, or I want to crack it down. Saturated fat, either good or not good. I will plan that one study that will break barriers and fix it. Or I think outside the box. Or I say there is something wrong that we are doing, and hold on. Let me take a step backward and understand what I have been doing wrong and do it right. And this is what we have done. So we've chosen this track, and we thought, I don't want to look at foods. I don't want to look at nutrients anymore. I want to look at dietary patterns. النمط الغذائي. No more one food. No more one nutrient. No more saturated fat and stroke. I want to look at a dietary pattern. So instead of looking at 150 food items, وهيدا the least, usually we have more than 150 food items, I'm gonna look at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 dietary patterns. This is exactly what we have done in our unit, and we have published extensively on dietary patterns and obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, multiple sclerosis, you name it. Our latest was in the European Journal of Nutrition for obesity among preschoolers. So we did hit that thing, and we said, let's understand the association of dietary patterns with the diseases both in the country and regionally. And this is what we have found. There are 2 patterns in Lebanon, very dominant. So I know you will eat differently, but we all eat almost 2 patterns, the Western pattern and the traditional Lebanese pattern, and each one has its characteristics. So I'm not gonna look anymore at mayonnaise. I'm gonna look at the Western pattern. I'm not gonna look at grains, whole dairy, no more. I'm gonna look at the traditional Lebanese pattern. And when I looked at the association with diseases, this axis shows the adherence to the pattern. So the more I go to my side, the more I adhere. The y-axis shows the odds of the disease. Here I'm talking about hyperglycemia. The Lebanese pattern, the more I adhere, there is really no association with hyperglycemia. Look at the Western. Significant increase in the odds of hyperglycemia. Let's look at obesity among adolescents. We have a significant association with obesity with the Western pattern. Let's look at the study that we have conducted, results of a study we have conducted in Syria. That was pre-war. Oral, pharyngeal, and laryngeal cancer. Again, the traditional Syrian diet decreased the odds of the disease while the Western increased it significantly. Metabolic syndrome in Lebanon, similar results. This one is dear to my heart. We looked at the association of dietary patterns with metabolic health among overweight and obese. So both are overweight and obese. But those who have their overweight and obesity from a Lebanese diet do not have metabolic abnormalities. So not all obese are created equal. Not all overweight are created equal. I'm not saying that we have to be overweight and obese. But those who are overweight and obese eating a Lebanese diet, we showed that they have a higher odd of metabolic health. This doesn't mean, again, I'm not an advocate of overweight or obesity, but this is showing that not all obese and overweight are created equal. So we were very happy. كيف لهلا? Beautiful results. We were extremely happy. We had these results. The Lebanese diet, and I have Beirut in the background, that I take it with me everywhere, this slide. The Western increases the risk of non-communicable diseases and obesity. The Lebanese diet decreases. Our recommendations, of course, limit adherence to Western, encourage adherence to traditional Lebanese. We were elated. عندنا بالunit there, wing B, لهون, we were elated. We got the recommendations, we got the data, we got the evidence. Hallelujah. And then comes, target is no more healthy. Target now is sustainable. We're not talking any more healthy. We don't care about ourselves anymore. We care for ourselves and the next generations. So our yardstick changed. So no more we're going towards healthy only. We have to go for sustainable. So we looked in the SDGs that were released, and nutrition was everywhere. In fact, we had one, zero hunger. يعني community nutrition here, Dr. Juma, at the heart of it. We have nutrition as enabler for health, women, children, communicable, non-communicable diseases, emergencies. Our NIE professor, Dr. Abed, is with us today. So we are there. And nutrition is an enabler of all other goals. So we looked at these SDGs and we found ourselves at the heart of the event. So we're not looking at any more healthy. We're looking at sustainable. So these were our recommendations, and we were only pulling these recommendations for healthy, but it seems no more. We have other trade-offs. If it is healthy, but it's not saving or it's not water smart, that's not a smart solution. I'm going to be healthy. My child is not going to have enough water to drink. If it's healthy and saves water, but drains my energy resources, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to have water, but my children are not going to have enough energy to use. And greenhouse gases, again, we want this planet to last for generations to come. So our recommendations are put at the center of trade-offs between healthy, which we already concentrated on, water, energy, and greenhouse gas emissions. So the journey continues. So Wing B packed and worked further to see whether these recommendations will stand the test of sustainability. We published our research recently on the environmental footprints of major dietary patterns. What we have done is we looked at our diet using available data sets, the famous Hwalla 2019 data set, and 2009, how I wish. It's my wishful thinking. So it's a 2009 data set. We looked at the dietary intake of people and we thought, let's calculate how much water is needed to feed these people, how much energy and how much greenhouse gas emissions was caused by the dietary intake. So we calculated metrics. It's easy to say water use. How do you calculate? That burger that comes to your table, how much water was consumed till that burger comes to your plate? So we calculated these metrics using life cycle analysis. For those of you who don't know what life cycle analysis, we look at the product from cradle to market. So from the moment it was planted or pre-planting, how much energy? Haida, this truck to come and plant, how much fuel do I put? This truck, how much greenhouse gas emissions does it do? How much water until my product is on the shelf, ready to be used? So we calculated all these phases to come up with the metrics. This is just an example of how each food will have an estimation of the water use and energy and greenhouse gas emissions. These are our results that I present to you. How much we consume water, and how much water impact does our food consumption has. I'm going to compare Lebanon to global average to Finland, and I'm going to base it on a diet of 2,500 kilocal. So assume we all eat 2,500 kilocal. What's our environmental impact per day? In Lebanon, we have 2 liters, 2,451 liters, I'm sorry. This is our impact, and these are the rest of the values. So are we doing very bad? We're still lower than the global average, but again, higher than certain countries, lower than the US, lower than Italy. This is the environmental impact of our diet. If you look at greenhouse gases, 3.9 kilos, and we are very comparable to Greece, which is another Mediterranean country, to the US, much lower than that of France. Energy, we are higher than the States. So this is the first estimation of how are we doing in terms of how much are we damaging our environment by our dietary intake. If you're going to compare the dietary patterns that we talked about, you see how much the Western diet has an impact? And this is the Lebanese, and this is the high protein. So first comes the Western, next the high protein diet, and next the Lebanese. Energy, highest impact was for the Western, followed by Lebanese and the high protein. Greenhouse gases, the Western had the highest, followed by high protein and the Lebanese. So these are the different impacts of the dietary patterns. If you want to see, and this is from another study, it's unpublished data, what are the major contributors to water use? Red meat, beverages, whole milk, refined grains. To energy use, sugar-sweetened beverages, vegetables, refined grains, again, whole milk products and red meat. Greenhouse gases, you have red meat that tops the groups, and followed by vegetables, fast food, and so on. So these were the results of our investigations. Big result is that what's healthy for you is also healthy for the planet. And we were able to put in numbers for it. Our same conclusions: limit adherence to the Western, increase adherence to the traditional. They stand. They stand. So we can still advocate for our traditional Lebanese diet and limit the Western diet. However, these are locked. These recommendations are locked in this room, are locked in your mind, are locked in my office. I know them. You now know them. They are just speechless. We're not going to be able to action these recommendations unless we reach a policy. I'm very happy. I published. Dean is here. He can promote me based on this publication. I'm fine. I'm very happy. You're happy. You heard it. You're dietitians. You increased your knowledge base. Did the people benefit from this? Abadan. Stayed in room 307 where I live. Unless we have a policy, and please do not have a policy for increasing awareness of the people. People are fed up with increasing awareness. I think policies have to target food production, distribution, processing, marketing, markets purchasing, preparation and consumption, and resource and waste recovery. So until we have a food system policy approach, until we take our results out of our offices, it's going to be locked. So it's on you, on those who are in the policy avenues, to take this a step further and to translate our language to the language of people and make an impact. Thank you. Questions? Well, it was very clear. It was not clear at all.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
Thank you. Very well done.
Thank you.
Would be interesting to look at the water footprint, the energy footprint, from a perspective of virtual water versus domestic production. Are there any studies that separate that? Because our carbon footprint is not domestic.
No.
It's in Ukraine, where we import most of our wheat. It's
true.
In some of it is in Turkey, where we import meat.
صح.
Are there any studies you're aware of that look into?
We have struggled. We have struggled to find life cycle analyses that are local. There aren't any. So we were going by whichever was closest. And even when we went to the States, we went to those places that they have a similar climate. But no, there are no studies, and I think it's extremely important. And have you seen the reviews of this paper? That was a comment of the reviewer. It was a reviewer comment, and in fact, we are tired telling people we don't have data. We don't have data. It was a reviewer's comment. I wish. It will make our life so easy. I was trying to defend every LCA that was used, and the reviewer was right. لأنه what I have in terms of water, Florida doesn't have.
Because some of the footprint depends on the
local context. Big time. Big time. But we went through. We went through. Yes, doctor.
Very interesting. For the past 2 years, I have been working with Dr. Hadi Jafar on the water footprint of animal products in this region, in MENA region. And of course, if you look at animal production, we find that in this region, over 50% of what we eat in animal products is imported from outside.
صحيح.
Therefore, and besides, there is also, we found out that 90% of the water required to produce an animal product is because of feed. In other words,
صح.
90% of the water used
to feed
is
the animal that we
product,
eat.
to
صحيح.
feed the animal. Now, so in this situation, if we are going to save on water, then it is better for us to import animal products or to import at least the feed for these products than to produce that feed. If we're going to produce that feed and save water at the same time, we need to concentrate on rain-fed crops rather than irrigated crops.
طبعا.
And rain-fed crops are mostly carbs, you know, the grain.
The grains.
So we have a dilemma here, which maybe you can solve for us.
I think it's only through that dialogue that we can solve them, these issues.
Yeah. It's very interesting because we want to encourage local production, yet at what cost? As you said, at the cost of water, very high cost of water.
صح.
And if we're going to concentrate on the rain-fed crops, we end up with a high-carb diet rather than a balanced
Diet.
Mediterranean.
You raised a very important issue, which is cost. And I'm happy you raised it because this is missing. Cost is missing from this analysis. Whatever I recommend here, if it's not cost effective, I cannot pursue. And this is our next step, is estimate the cost of these foods. And then, because I cannot recommend something that is not possible for people to access and to buy. So, yes, your point is very well taken, and this is our next step, hopefully, within the WEFRA umbrella, inshallah. Other questions?
Yeah, when it is true what Dr. Jalal is saying, we import 85 to 90% of our food, so the issue of sustainability is not the issue that is local, but sustainability is local. And this is why you can see healthy is international, but sustainability
Is local, like what Dean Mukhtar was saying.
Like what Dean Mukhtar said, it's what is sustainable for the Philippines.
Exactly.
Not sustainable for us.
صحيح.
But what you are showing is methodology that countries should use and should follow in order to find out what is sustainable and what is not sustainable. So if we are going to study the sustainability of the food that we produce and find out what is sustainable for us, we have to change what we produce
طبعا.
and what we consume.
The whole food system.
And what we consume. And there is the whole food system that you have put interference in that whole food system in terms of marketing, taxes,
production, taxation.
and so on, will make people probably, because you said we keep preaching and they don't listen, maybe this will change what they eat. For example, if you make whole wheat bread cheaper than white bread, that's one option.
طبعا.
So if you interfere in the market, you might influence the health because people will eat healthy and the sustainability aspect
Hopefully.
of that.
Definitely, there has to be on the food system, interventions at the food system, and we are really hoping that our public health and nutrition graduates will bridge in public health policies with our science of nutrition. And food security, of course. So these two graduate programs that we have, the food security and the public health and nutrition, they take whatever we do and they implement them at the public health level. Akram.
Yes, what about the cooking part of the food? Because you mentioned only like the footprint till it reaches the shelf. But what, like cooking only the
صح. That's a good comment. That's another reviewer's comment. Akram, مبروك على الميد سكول. It was too much for us. As it is, it was just too much for us. We didn't have estimation of the food waste, food losses. I wish we had, but we didn't want to step in a very dangerous territory. I mean, already what we have done was a stretch by trying to accommodate all these numbers from regional, international, putting a water stress factors. and doing all the modeling and assumptions in the world. But that part, we were too scared to step in. We don't really have any data, and this is so much local. So we didn't step in for future researchers.
What about the myths and the new trends about food, like veganism, vegetarianism? How, like, where do they stand?
We have to do this study again, and see whether a vegan diet will lead to lower environmental footprints. This is a whole field. We just tapped on the surface. But this is a huge field. You're right. What about vegans? Is vegan good for you, good for the environment as it is good for you? I don't know.
Actually, vegetarian diets are low.
Are low. Vegetables are high. In our country, vegetables are high in energy.
But
Yeah.
studies in the US that they
بدنا study هون.
if you go vegetarian, it's better. But that doesn't have to be vegan. It doesn't have to be 100%. We're not advocating. But the more you go vegan, the more you go vegetable, the better it is for the environment. But probably you have to do the trade-offs. But I spoke about trade-offs. The trade-offs is where is it healthy and sustainable? So it's not either or. And when it comes between healthy or sustainable,
لا بعدنا عم نحكي sustainable. لا sustainable.
The data doesn't support this though. The data, red meat is the highest footprint, for example, for water. Second is vegetables.
Vegetables.
Yes.
So the data.
Our vegetables are very high
There are
in
different ways in which you can create your own
the
meat and
vegetables.
proteins.
But if you trade off meat with legumes,
legumes. Legumes are a very good bet for us.
legumes are the trade-off for meat. It's
Yeah.
not vegetables.
No, of course, it's legumes.
And
Eggs.
is 100%.
Yeah.
Going back to, I think the source of protein. So for example, when you talk about meat diet or the meat, replacing the meat, it's not a big unit. I mean, within that, there are different animal protein. There's the eggs, there's the milk, there's
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
much lower than red meat.
Than red
The
meat
chicken
itself. صح.
is way up there. So I think those are the trade-offs
That we need to sort out.
When we say meat, we're talking about red meat.
Red meat.
Okay.
Red meat.
Yeah, because poultry meat is much lower.
Yes,
If
yes.
you look at the scale, red meat comes on top.
صحيح.
And then you have sheep and goat. And then you
Sheep
have-
and goat within red meat, you mean?
No,
The data doesn't.
as classified separately.
Within.
Red meat is beef. Yeah.
The
Okay.
data
And
doesn't
then you have poultry meat, then you have eggs, and then you have surprisingly milk
أي.
has the lowest footprint.
Yeah. We have a question.
The goats that are produced with the traditional ru'at is
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
we cannot lump. I mean, when you talk about the traditional agrarian
System.
produced meat,
I
which is
agree with you.
it has
Yeah.
a very
But,
very low
that-
footprint.
Yeah, it's still higher than poultry meat.
And still not healthy.
That's a
Still,
different story.
I have a question here. Gentleman here was.
Speaking of this vegetarian diet, the Eat Lancet Commission has recently published a study about a planetary diet, which it suggests that meat should be considered as condiments rather than main components of our diets. So, due to the scarcity of studies in the MENA region, and especially in Lebanon, I want to ask you, how would consumer acceptance drive a path for the implementation of such diets here in our region? How would you believe that it would be welcomed in the households to abandon meats?
That's a very good question. That will open the door for another study. Can I give you a scoop? Why do we eat what we eat? Don't kill me. Why do we eat what we eat?
Because it's our dishes are heirloom. We take them from our parents, their grandparents.
Is it? Or is it affordable? Or is it that you like it? Or is it genetic? Why do we eat what we eat? And then I can tell if I want to modify your intake, I start playing with why you eat what you eat. But so far, I know what you eat, but I don't know why you eat.
Why? Because
Don't kill me.
Why? I will tell you why. Because our parents trained us to eat that.
Is it? So genetics or training?
Defined in the books
Well, we'll have to look at it. Yes.
No, I just wanted to say because the why will drive the right intervention.
Exactly.
It's marketing,
That will be an evidence-based interventions.
it's marketing as well.
Marketing, food environment, very good. That's true. Omar will kill me هلا. Omar will kill me.
Usually the ozone layer is affected by methane production.
Eh?
And if we go vegetarian, we produce a lot of methane.
We accounted for the methane. We accounted for the methane. Our agriculture person, Mr. Zaidek, who was doing this, we accounted for it. The cows that produce methane. لا بس الcows produce methane and we have accounted for that in the analysis. I think we had that done. Yes?
So to sum it up, what you're saying exactly is that the most influential factor right now is ethical in some sort of way.
Just you want to be good to your environment and good to yourself. So what we have shown here, with the first part of the session or of the seminar, I showed that the traditional diets are good for you. It had lower odds, or if not, it didn't have higher odds of disease. So if you want to be good to yourself and good to your environment, eat Mediterranean. Eat your traditional Mediterranean diet.
By default, you will be good for the environment.
Exactly. No more questions? Think you can go home?
Well done.